Hi, this is Legato Assassin, and welcome to another video. This is going to be a commentary over this Search and Destroy game, and it's quite a good game. I nearly pick up my first ace, but yeah, I choked right at the end, or missed it. He was just too far away. But anyway, what I usually do with commentaries is I usually write down like a little script of what I'm going to say, so I cover all the topics that I wanted to talk about, and I then edit down all the bits that sounds shit. But what I'm going to do on this one is there's no script. I'm not going to edit it down. I'm just going to throw this straight up online to the game. Thursday morning, I woke up to the news that Chris Cornell had committed suicide. If you don't know who he is, Chris Cornell is the singer of a band called Soundgarden and Audio Slave. You know you're getting old, or older, when your heroes start dying, and to have them die of suicide is really affected me. Really affected me. Given that he wasn't a person that was known to kind of live this kind of like the rock and roll lifestyle. I know he had kind of substance abuse issues in his past, and also he battled depression for a long time, but didn't see it coming. I guess you never do. And it was just really sad. It's really sad. It highlights the effect that mental illness can have on you, whether you're a single person living in a one-bedroom flat in the middle of some backwoods town and wherever, or if you're, you know, a millionaire rock star with a beautiful wife, two gorgeous little kids, and your life is writing and recording music and playing live to thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference if you're suffering from mental illness or mental health problems like depression or anxiety or drug addiction. It doesn't matter. It will come and get you. I'm sorry that this is going to be a really kind of somber commentary, because it's something that's very close to my heart. On Saturday I celebrated 18 months sobriety. I'm a recovered alcoholic and I'm a recovered drug addict, and Saturday was 18 months. That was it's one of the milestones. The next one is 2 years, which will be up in November. It affects huge amounts of people. I know that suicide rates in men is, I think, 2 or maybe 3 times greater than it is in women. The whole thing is kind of, it's just tragic. If you haven't checked out or you haven't listened to any Soundgarden, go and do that right now. Super Unknown, which was one album, and Bad Motorfinger, which was another album. They were released in the 90s, and they're just works of such intensity, and such beauty as well. Lyrically, he was amazing. He was one of, or if not the greatest lyricist of the 90s, of our generation, of my generation. So I'm sitting here drinking tea as well, because tea makes everything better. Soundgarden came out around the early 90s, along with bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains. But what set them apart was they were very adventurous with how they recorded and how they wrote music. They used a lot of odd time signatures, which, if you're not a musician, you won't know, but just rhythmically it felt very odd, very angular, very not what you'd usually listen to. Lots of really kind of strange tunings that they would tune the guitars to really odd, peculiar kind of tunings. And they weren't a whiny band. When you listen to bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and all bands, there was a lot of whining going on. Soundgarden weren't like that. They were just very different, and they were just a fucking great band. They were a fucking great band, and this really affected me. It was really shook me up. We had Prince die, David Bowie, Lemmy from Motorhead. None of those people, none of their music really touched me in the way that bands like Soundgarden did. And I know that's kind of sacrilege to say about Prince. Everyone says that he's a genius, and he is an utter genius, as is David Bowie. But their music never really spoke to me. Not in the way that Soundgarden did. It's just, yeah. There's always a way out. I feel that suicide, and I've heard it, and it's kind of a cliche to say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But you could maybe argue that Chris Cornell's wasn't a temporary problem. If he'd been battling depression and drug addiction, you know, he was 52. If he'd been battling it for 30 years, maybe that's not temporary. That's permanent. But it highlights, you know, he left behind two small children. I think he has two little girls. Two little girls are without a father. A wife has lost a husband. Siblings have lost a brother. Parents have lost a son. I don't know, man. It's heartbreaking. Really is. And I'm not ashamed to say that I cried when I heard about it. And listening to his music now, it takes on a whole different meaning, a whole different perspective. But, you know, what's done is done now. I think all I can do is, you know, try and gain a little perspective and try and move forward. And also we need to form some kind of protective barrier around Eddie Vedder. We need to do that immediately. Because he's all that's left. He's, other than Dave Grohl, but I would say that Dave Grohl kind of the Foo Fighters came after the grunge movement of, you know, the early 90s. But yeah, man, it's just tragic. And yeah, to have it fall almost on the same weekend that I hit my 18-month recovery it kind of made me realise that what I'm going through, although it probably doesn't compare to what someone who's suffering deep kind of mental health issues is going through, because I don't think I'm on that level. But it highlighted to me how important it is for me to stay sober, to stay away from alcohol and drugs. I've got two small girls, and I'm married, and I've got plenty of brothers and sisters. Mum and dad are still alive. I can't jeopardise that for anything. And it's highlighted that my recovery is the most important thing. Because if I let go of it and I go back to drinking and using, everything that I love then becomes at stake. But yeah, I wanted it to be less about me and more about Soundgarden, more about Chris Cornell. And he was, you know, at 52, he was kind of moving into this era of being kind of the elder statesman of, you know, rock and roll. All kind of like the younger bands that are coming up now kind of would look up to him, or kind of do. They do look up to him. They're a huge influence on most bands that are kicking around today. Yeah, and we had a lot more from him. There was a lot more music left in him. I'm so happy that I got to see him. I got to see him about 3 or 4 years ago. I saw Soundgarden play in London. I think it was 2013. And at the time, you know, late 40s, his voice is still as good as it was when he was in his 20s. And it was just fucking incredible. It was an incredible show, and I'm just very grateful that I got to be a part of it. So, what do we do now? What do I do now? Yeah, I've been playing Soundgarden records. I've been playing his solo albums, Audio Slave. I didn't really get into Audio Slave too much, but their first album was fucking great. He also sung for James Bond as well. He sung the James Bond theme tune. I think it was Casino Royale. One of the only times that they had a good James Bond theme tune. It wasn't fucking Adele whining. Or Shirley Bassey. It was a fucking rock and roll extravaganza. But yeah, go out and check out Soundgarden. Go and listen to Super Unknown, Bad Motorfinger. His first solo album, Euphoria Morning. Such a skewed off angle from where he was with Soundgarden. It's this kind of laid back, piano based singer-songwriter album, and it took me years to get into it. But my God, when I did, yeah, I think it's one of the greatest solo albums that anyone has ever put out. And it's always so often overlooked. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be listening to a lot of Soundgarden this week. Over the next month, I think. That's what it's going to take to process this. Go and check them out. Do yourself a favour. If you haven't, go and listen to them. If you have, you probably know where I'm coming from. Just a sad fucking day. Sad fucking week. They said it was suicide, but yeah, his wife came back and said that she doesn't believe that he was suicidal. She spoke to him, the afternoon that he killed himself. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see where it takes us. But sorry, this was such a somber, depressing kind of commentary. But it's something I had to get out. Something I had to get out there. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of Soundgarden. Let me know how this affected you. If it did, if it didn't, go fucking check them out. Go and listen to them, because they, I don't want to say they changed the world, but they were definitely a big part of a movement which changed the world. And Chris Cornell was intelligent. He wasn't a moron. He wasn't an idiot. He was a kind of a philanthropist. He was everything that you want out of an intelligent, articulate artist. Didn't steal the limelight. Didn't give a shit about, award ceremonies or anything like that. He just wanted to play music. And I'm glad he did. And I'm glad, in a way, he died doing what he loved. He was on tour. I think he was in Detroit. Finished the show. A few hours later, he was dead. But anyway, I'll leave it there. That's I think that's going to be enough. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, thank you very much for sticking around, and I'll see you on the next video.